Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Coach Cody Podcast. So it is now past Thanksgiving. I hope everyone who's in the States that celebrates had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. There was plenty of good food to be had. This morning, though, I will say, if you listen to last week's episode, I talked a bit about how I hired a business coach and how, it basically financially pushed me into the ground, and how last month, it's now December, crazy. November was my last payment to this business coach. And I woke up this morning, it is December 1st, and I'm recording this in case you're wondering. And there had been another payment taken out of my account. So not only was I stuck in a 12-month contract that I just gritted my teeth and got through barely and tried to survive, but I have now been charged for 13 payments. And of course it comes out on the same day rent is due. And you know what? I just want to fucking say, fuck these business coaches, guys. There probably is some genuine business coaches out there, but do not hire someone who has not done what they're trying to teach you to do, I would say for at least 10 years. I'm not even fucking kidding you. Because if they haven't been doing, they haven't been doing what they've been trying to teach you for any length of time, they're not going to be able to teach you shit. And this person specifically, I didn't realize it at the time, but I've actually been coaching longer than they have. And they went into business coaching in within a couple years or a year after they started fitness coaching. So that is a huge fucking red flag. How are they going to teach you to not just scale your business or get to a certain point, but how are they going to teach you to make it sustainable long term? Obviously, they had no idea how to do this because, referrals are going to be a great base to your business. It matters. How you treat your clients matters. And let's just say she is going to have to depend on bringing in new clients constantly, because there's no way she's getting the amount of referrals she needs in order to keep her business going sustainably long term. So she's just making money off of lawsuits, and she's making money off of just blatantly stealing shit out of people's accounts when she's not supposed to. Hopefully I get the money back. Right now, I'm just a little heated. It was an expense that I was, anticipating. The holidays are coming up. It's literally the 1st. Rent is due. And I breathed a sigh of relief thinking, that is $2,000 that is not going to come out of my account next month. And then, lo and behold, I wake up and that money is gone. Rent is due. And, she stole my rent money, guys. It's a lot more serious than stealing my lunch money, but, partially it's my lunch money too. But anyways, sorry for that rant. I just wanted to make it clear, be very careful about, quote unquote, investing in your business. I have been terrified to invest in my business in this way for a very long time. And now I'm seeing it's for good reason. I've been very cautious about how I invest in my business. Usually does not include, large sums of money. I've made bigger investments here and there, but it has been worth it and it has paid off. And for some reason, I was just completely fooled. Fool me once. It's never going to happen again. Probably will never trust any other type of business coach ever again. I think when it comes down to it, lesson learned also is that I didn't need this business coach. I think coming from a place of, one, I have OCD, and two, we all have self-doubts and imposter syndrome and all that bullshit. Also, I came from religion and I believed certain things as certainty for a very, very long time. And when that gets swept out from underneath you, you just start to question everything. And you're just damn, I believed in this for so long. And now how can I trust myself again? What can I actually believe? And so I've taken some steps back in that area. I thought when I made this decision, I actually felt pretty proud of myself. Like, all right, cool. I'm investing in my business. I'm taking a risk, and I'm just going to trust myself to get the job done, to get the work done. And it was supposed to be a leap of faith, but it was a leap right off the cliff. I trusted a little too much, let's just say. There's like one of those trust exercises where you stand on a platform and you just like fall backwards and people are supposed to catch you. Yeah, I did that, only no one caught me. I just fell straight on my ass and still trying to get up. My back hurts. Anyways, all right, so today I want to talk about mindset, ironically, and why the perfect fitness plan doesn't fucking matter unless your mind is in the right place. All right. So your mindset is what drives everything. The plan is great, but if you cannot get yourself to follow the plan, you're not going to get anywhere. So, some things that, involve your mindset. So motivation, discipline. As we know, motivation is fleeting. So you have to make sure that you understand that you're not always going to be motivated. That discipline is going to be what you're going to need to rely on the most. Building those habits, building that foundation to where that's going to keep you going even when motivation isn't there. And I will tell you, about 90% of this year, I have not been motivated. Probably like the depression hole that I fell into, along with just like the excruciating anxiety that everything was going to come crumbling down, and the OCD. And discipline is definitely what got me through. And it wasn't fun. A lot of the workouts have been, lackluster. They weren't giving me that mood boost I was looking for, because like literally nothing could boost my mood. But I knew that down the road, motivation was going to come back at some point. I have little glimmers of it here and there now as I'm coming out of the hole, except for today waking up having been charged $2,000 for no reason. But it is starting to circle back around. And the best part is that, biggest reason I kept going is that I knew I didn't want to be feeling like I was starting from a deficit or starting over when it did start to cycle back around. So I just had to trust the process. And it doesn't always feel good to just go through the motions, but sometimes that's the best you can do. And it's better to go through the motions than to just quit because you're not feeling it, So self-talk is also a major contributor to your mindset. Negative self-talk, sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. I'm guilty of this. And it can be subconscious because, it's like we're so used to it, we don't even recognize it anymore. And I know for me too, it's like being an asshole to myself and like being my own bully has become this feeling of safety. One, I feel like it's just like all I've really known. But two, it feels more dangerous to be kind to myself and giving myself grace, because I'm like, what if this is how it all comes crumbling down? Like I didn't put enough pressure on myself, or I was too kind to myself, and therefore I just stopped working out because I just gave myself too much grace. But it doesn't exactly work that way. Basically, being kind to yourself just means that you are talking to yourself like a friend. I mean, a real friend, not a friend that's just going to tell you everything you want to hear, but a friend that's also going to give you some tough love. So that means being honest with yourself. That means giving yourself constructive criticism, but not just straight criticism. Don't be like, oh man, I skipped the gym. I am such a fucking failure and a fuck up. So that's not gonna be productive. You don't need to bully yourself into following the plan. Just be chill. Ask yourself instead. This is one thing that my therapist, I've talked about negative self-talk a lot with my therapist. And I told her how I cringe every time I think of being kind to myself. like looking in the mirror and being like, giving myself these affirmations and just wanting to barf thinking about it. And she suggested that instead of thinking of it that way, in the moments where I'm feeling maybe anxious and I'm telling myself to suck it up and not be such an anxious asshole, asking myself what kind of support I need in that moment. That felt friendly enough to not make me want to throw up in my mouth. And so that's kind of just one way, one like word, one phrase I've been telling myself when I'm feeling a certain way, whether that's self-doubt, whether that is anxiety or depression, just asking myself, like, what do I need? What do I need for support? How can I support myself through this? And a lot of times that is much more productive than just being like, come on, you fucking asshole, get off your ass. You are wasting time. You're wasting energy. And look at, we're doing this shit again. So just some tips on how you might reframe that negative self-talk. But it also might sound like, you know, if you mess up and you tell yourself like, I'll never get fit and this just isn't working. I just suck at this. So just reframing it, you know, more as like a learning experience, just being like, oh, you know, I missed the gym this time, but it's cool. Like, we're still moving forward. One missed workout is not going to just erase all of my progress. And we're going to learn from the situation for next time. So that's kind of one way that you can kind of reframe it. Always kind of have like a growth mindset towards it, which I'll talk about later. So another big thing is just actual belief in yourself. This is super hard to come by just in general, because self-doubt's a bitch. But if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe you can actually get to these goals, at least a little bit, it's okay to have a little bit of doubt. We're all just, we don't actually know for sure we can do something because we never have. But having the belief that you can, just by following a certain path and not, you know, letting your own bullshit stop you, is going to be pretty powerful. So, you know, just aiming for smaller goals even can be helpful in that situation, because big goals can be really overwhelming. So it's pretty easy, you know, if you have these really massive goals and you don't break them down into smaller goals, to feel so overwhelmed that you feel like it's like climbing Everest. And let's say you wanted to climb mountains. You wouldn't start by climbing Everest, would you? No, you would start very small. You would climb like a hill, or, you know, go on a hike first. Maybe go rock climbing where there's safety in place instead of just going for the biggest goal first. So that applies to all things, not just actually, actually climbing Everest. So now that we know what kind of makes up mindset, why it matters to achieve our goals, I wanted to go over some common psychological barriers to reaching our goals. So one of the biggest ones is fear of failure. And I get it. Failure is scary as fuck. But the thing is, you cannot fail as long as you learn from it. So I always say you can't fail unless you quit. And that's true, because you're constantly learning. As long as you learn from the situation, you can keep moving forward and do better the next time. So example, if you skipped a workout and you feel like you failed and you're just too far behind, it's not an actual failure. You still have so much more opportunity to keep moving forward. It's another thing is, I'll talk about more on this, but falling into that all or nothing mindset can be extremely toxic to reaching your goals. So number 2, imposter syndrome. This goes with self-doubt as well, or just feeling like you're not someone who is just destined to be fit. Maybe you just feel like you're not someone, it depends what your goals are, but say, you aspire to be a bodybuilder, but you can't seem to hit all your workouts in a week, or you skipped a workout and you're just like, I just don't think I'm meant to be a bodybuilder. Well, if you say it like that, maybe, but it's about like reshaping your identity. And this is something that James Clear talks about in his book, Atomic Habits, which you should pick up if you have not yet. It is life-changing, I think. It's one of my favorite books. I read it. I've read it multiple times. And as someone with ADHD, to read something multiple times, it means it's good. It's really hard for me to sit still sometimes. Or you could listen to it as an audiobook, and you could move around as much as you like. So if you also have ADHD, audiobooks are okay. They count. I don't care what anyone else says. So anyways, James Clear talks about identity and taking on the identity of the person that you want to become. So if you want to be a bodybuilder, you got to think like, what would a bodybuilder do in this situation? They would probably find a way to hit their workouts consistently. They would eat on track. So really taking on that identity, or, what would a fit person, say you're just aiming to get fit or get healthy, what would a fit person do in this situation? They would go hit that workout, even if they weren't feeling like it. They would make sure to prep their food, even though they probably also were not feeling like it. So shifting your identity and between like what you've known yourself to be to something else that you aspire to be can be very helpful in pushing you forward. Next one, perfectionism. As someone with OCD, this is extremely hard for me, but getting into that all or nothing mindset really can fuck things up, because a lot of times when you have an all or nothing mindset, you're usually left with nothing. So you gotta, be a little flexible, be okay with making mistakes here and there, or just be okay with good being good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. Remember that it is progress, not perfection. So maybe this week you had a couple cheat meals or treat meals and you're only supposed to have one. Well, maybe the week before you had 3. So were you perfect? No, but you still made progress. Maybe the next week you're going to have just that one treat meal, and then you've built momentum. If you keep progressing, progressive overload applies to other things outside of just your weights in the gym. You're going to get there. Small steps. Something I've learned in ERP therapy. Like the smallest steps always count. And that's how you're going to get to those big steps. All right. So another thing, comparison. As they say, as cliche as it is, comparison is the thief of joy. And this is something we fall into with social media quite frequently. It's really hard not to compare yourself to others, or just think, oh, I really want to look like this person. Or, it could be, there's a fine line between inspiring and motivating, and then discouraging. Because if you see some person on the internet, social media, on Instagram, and then you're like, damn, like they look so good, I'm never going to look like that. What's the point of even trying? That's when comparison can not only steal your joy, but also your gains and your progress. And you really don't want to let that happen, because the truth is, I'm going to tell you straight up, you are never going to look like that person on the internet. You're just not. And that's not, I'm not saying that to be discouraging. The reason I'm saying that is because you can never look like someone else. You can only look like you. You can look like the best version of you. And that's why you should keep going on your goals, because you can still improve and you can look like your best self or feel like your best self. So it's not pointless if you can't look like a certain person that you admire on the internet. So another thing, as I said, I touch on a little bit later, is having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. So example of a growth mindset would be like, I ate a bit more than I planned to at dinner, but I'll get back to it. I'll get back on track tomorrow. It's a new day. It's going to be fine. Fixed mindset would be, I ruined my diet. I might as well just quit now. It's very similar to that all or nothing mindset. So growth mindset is basically just always looking at things as a learning experience, no matter what happens. Little mistakes here and there, small failures, not like huge failures, but a mess up here and there with your food or missing a workout, not planning ahead properly. These are all things that you can learn from and improve in the future. So the key is just, learning that this journey is a process. It's a learning process. And if we just focus on the outcome or the outcome we want, it's a really quick way to get discouraged. Sure, it's great to just strive for that goal and strive for that outcome, but do not forget all the lessons that you're learning along the way to get to that goal. And that is just as valuable as achieving the overall big picture goal that you are striving for. I think it's just like one of the main things we tend to miss is that we learn about ourselves along the way. We are constantly growing and improving as we get closer to our goals. And that's why it's important to celebrate the small wins along the way. So, hey, stop, basically, it's kind of like, for example, I'm sorry, I'm full of examples today. The process, again, I'm just going to keep using ERP. I felt a lot of kind of shame all right, so I'd feel proud of myself, but then I would also feel this feeling of would creep up of shame. Like I would do an exposure and I'd be so happy that I did something, but then I would start to instantly think that this shouldn't even be hard. No, this is not hard for anyone else. And I'm happy that I did something that most people can just do without even thinking about it. And that was a good way to shit on my progress. So it's like learning to recognize those little steps as progress that you're moving forward and that you're learning and that it's going to just keep building from there is going to be very important. So how can we cultivate a winning mindset? So you want to shift your focus or shift your mindset from outcome to process, like I mentioned earlier. So you want to focus on the actions, not just the results, what you're learning in the process. And then another thing is, reframing setbacks as opportunities. Sometimes, failure isn't just a dead end. It's like a reroute. Maybe it's a fork in a road, and life kind of shows we think we're going one direction, but then maybe life is just no, actually, I think you're better suited to go this direction. Things don't turn out like we hope sometimes, like this year for me. Definitely did not end up how I was hoping, but I definitely still learned a shit ton. And I'm sure I'll learn to appreciate it more once I'm actually completely out of it. But was it a setback? Sure. But did I still learn things from it? Yes. There's also silver linings that happen. Get my OCD diagnosis, and then I found other ways that I can improve in my life because of it. And I think it also has taught me to be less scared, because it was one of my worst fears. And now that, it has kind of come true, I'm less afraid of it. And I feel stronger because of it. So, yeah, I know how to spot bullshit. And I'll learn eventually how to trust myself again. But, for now, we'll tread lightly. But, all right. So another way to shift from, or to cultivate a winning mindset is practicing your positive self-talk. Like I mentioned earlier, asking yourself how you can support yourself, how you can kind of, be a friend to yourself and just be okay with being new at something. Be okay with allowing yourself to learn new things, giving yourself some cushion, some wiggle room, to not expect yourself to be perfect in these situations. Another thing is breaking down your goals into smaller goals. Make sure that, they're specific, make sure they're measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. That way, you know what you're aiming for. It's really hard to pursue a goal if you don't even know where you're going. So create a roadmap to your goals so that you can be successful. Another thing is visualizing success. This is also something that I tend to do. I find it like if it's hard for me to visualize something or visualize myself achieving or doing something, much less likely I'm going to actually be able to do it. For example, this can work in negative ways too. So if you visualize yourself failing, chances are you're going to manifest that shit. So try to keep the visualizations positive. Do not visualize yourself failing. Visualize yourself winning, because there's no harm in that. It's not going to cost you anything. You might as well keep that positive. And therefore, if you can see yourself making progress, if you can see yourself reaching those goals in your head, then that's going to build belief in yourself to keep working and keep pushing forward. So visualization is key. I visualize myself stepping on stage and doing my posing routine and, winning, because you got to visualize that. And although I didn't 100% believe it, I visualized it and I did win my class. So I'm not saying I won because I visualized it, but I didn't not win because I don't know what I'm saying. But I guarantee it probably would have only led to negative things if I would have visualized myself losing, because then I'm just tripping up. Like, I definitely had moments where I visualized myself like tripping on stage, and I had to smack myself out of that one real quick. So I'm like, God damn it, I am going to do that if I keep thinking I'm going to do that. So, yeah. Build a supportive environment. Environment is huge. And having a team of people behind you supporting you is very, very vital to success. So even if you have to hire a coach, if you need therapists, friends, family, the plus side is even if your friends and family don't support you, chances are you can find a therapist or a coach out there that will. You might have to pay them for it, but it still counts. I think that's why... We'll not get into that. We'll finish that thought another time. Anyways, okay. So last but not least, celebrate the small wins, because like I said previously, it's important to know that the outcome is not the only valuable part of the process. It's everything leading up to it. You can celebrate by trying to celebrate with food. If you have a weight loss goal, make it something, tangible, like some new workout gear. Even it's as simple as something like, say you're having a hard time drinking water, so then reward yourself with a hydro flask, because they cost like $40, and it's a pretty good reward. Keeps you hydrated, and it's in line with that identity. You want to be this fit person who cares about their body, pays attention to their hydration levels, all those things. So reward yourself with things that fit the identity that you want to embrace. That about wraps that up. But basically, my challenge for you. So write down one mindset barrier that's been holding you back. Choose one strategy from today's episode to apply this week. And then reflect on your why. The deeper reasoning behind your goals, because without the why, you're just gonna be flailing around, not knowing why you're trying to do what you're doing, and it's not gonna be very motivating. So knowing your why is basically the foundation that's gonna keep you going. It's gonna keep you not necessarily motivated, but it's gonna keep you doing things even when you're not feeling motivated. And I think that's definitely what has kept me going this whole past year, is just knowing my why and not losing sight of that. So hopefully this podcast was helpful for you, and, really just emphasizing the importance of mindset over everything versus trying to find this perfect plan, this most optimal plan, because what is most optimal for you is something you can stick to, something that is aligned with your values, aligned with your goals. And so just some food for thought to help you continue on your own journey. I'm going to end this with a quote. So final quote here: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that is by Henry Ford. So reflect on that, on your mindset this week. If you found this helpful, feel free to leave me a comment on Spotify. You can comment on Spotify now. So love if you would leave a comment. If you want to comment on YouTube, if you're watching this, let me know how it helped you, or let me know how you're shifting your mindset this week. Give it a share to a friend if you think that they need some mindset. It's really hard not to say mindset and shift without saying mind shit. So I'm going to believe in myself that I can correctly say this without cursing. Mindset shift. If you have a friend who needs some mindset shifts, maybe send it their way so they can get some help as well. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up this week, but thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. Peace out. I'll talk to you next time.